Hello, friends. It is the top of the hour. Welcome to the week of October the 7th. And of course, welcome back to our latest session of Coaching to Confidence, soon to become Leaders Weekly, our weekly conversation about real estate sales and your success. I'm Chris McGatt, the other Chris, and I head up the coaching division right here at Leaders Edge. Oh boy. We have got an amazing session in store for you today. And of course, we've got the live Q&A coming up as well. Now, speaking of that Q&A, don't delay. Go ahead and drop your questions or your comments either to us or to Sean right there into the Zoom Q&A at the bottom of your screen. We'll be sure to cover it during the second half of today's session. In fact, we may even take a little break in the middle and answer questions as we're going along. Now, listen, every week we stream live to make sure that we're bringing you topics that are both timely and relevant. As you know, every week we focus on one of the following four areas. It's either going to be lead generation to help you build your business and build your client base, or sales skills to close more deals, inspiration to stay motivated and focused, or we're going to be talking about your business structure. Because, folks, we have all got to figure out better ways to work more effectively and more efficiently. We're going to reach our goals consistently. Now, today's topic, lessons from a 25-year rookie, featuring none other than the Sean Carpenter. Listen, when I ran my former company back in Colorado, I had the absolute pleasure of having Sean present to our agents at least every year and a half, every 2 years. If you've never seen him, you are in for a treat. Sean is an authentic, amazing giving resource in the real estate industry, and we are so thrilled to have him here with us today. But first, go ahead and grab your phone and capture this QR code, because remember, each week we provide you with a way to download highlights of today's session, of every session. That way you don't need to scramble to take notes during Sean's presentation. Instead, you can focus on the content and the context of what he has to say. Now, before we formally introduce today's guest, please help me welcome my co-host for today, nationally recognized real estate master sales trainer, Chris Leader. Chris, it is always so darn good to see you. How are you? You were on the road last week like I couldn't believe. Did you even have a weekend?
No, unfortunately not, but I got to tell you, it's great to be busy and always wonderful to see you, Chris. But yeah, busy, real busy time pushing into the end of the fourth quarter. Lots of stuff going on. But hey, happy to have work, right? I mean, blessed to have work. So thank you. Yeah.
Absolutely. No, it's a really great thing. As you probably have heard, we're bracing ourselves for yet another storm in Florida. I can't believe it.
You're
It's
in the news.
absolutely. Is it in the news? Well, I'm going to let you go ahead and do the
That's in
news
the
because we
news.
got a great
Oh,
show
yeah.
ahead. So
Yeah.
take it away. Tell us about the news, Chris.
Well, first of all, I want to say good morning to everybody on the West Coast. Good afternoon to everybody on the East Coast, and a big hello to everybody in between. The jobs report was out last week, and there was more jobs than expected. That's a good news report for those people who don't have jobs. But for real estate, a strong economy generally means a slowdown on the reduction of interest rates, which, we want those rate reductions. Low interest rates benefit the real estate industry. So the next Fed meeting is going to be November 6th and the 7th. We initially expected it. I was forecasting a 50 basis point drop. Again, I think it's going to be 25 basis points is what I think we're going to get. So I don't think we're going to get to 50, which I would have loved to see the 50. On the other hand, the Bank of Canada meets October 23rd, and the Canadian market is kind of all over the place, but some of the big centers like Toronto still really, really wobbly. So I'm hoping to see a 50 basis point cut in the rates there. Now, keeping with the Canadian theme, it will be our Thanksgiving this weekend. We come earlier than you guys because the weather comes sooner. So it's Thanksgiving this weekend. But I will say this, I hope you have time for family and friends, turkey dinner and all those wonderful things. But keep in mind, this would be a great weekend for an open house because we work when other people don't. And there will be lots of people around, great opportunity on a well-priced property. And this, to carry on with that theme, we're rounding the last corner now and making the run for the final, the run for the roses to the finish line. Your holidays how good your holidays are will depend on how many files you open right now. So I need you guys to put the full court press on so that we have a really strong finish to this year. So let's not miss the opportunity. Now, as Chris said, hurricane season's upon us. Last week, oh my gosh, Hurricane Helen, as of this morning, $34 billion in damages, catastrophic life loss. And I've got clients all up and down the Carolinas that were impacted. My heart goes out. The pictures are they're sad. It's just really tough. At the same time, like Chris said, he's in Delray Beach, Florida. Hurricane Milton is expected to make shore on Wednesday, somewhere between a Category 3 and a Category 4. It looks like Tampa, St. Petersburg, Orlando, based on what I read this morning, is going to take a major hit. I hope everyone there is either left or is prepared and got everything they need. Now, why this is important to real estate, and you guys have heard me, this is a common theme with me, and I've been beating this drum for a while. These storms are going to drive up insurance costs. And we have to be thoughtful in real estate. Higher insurance premiums affect the affordability for people when it comes to principal, interest, taxes. And I think insurance could be part of the qualifying process in the future. Keep in mind, you can't get a mortgage unless you have home insurance. So it's going to be part of the qualifying process. Some areas in particular are going to face real difficulties even obtaining insurance. Think of those coastal areas that are right on the water. This could impact property values. I don't know what this means. I mean, I'm not sure anybody can forecast it yet. But the takeaways are we got to stay informed as professionals to be able to guide our clients effectively. Home insurance is critical. Remember, you can't get a mortgage without home insurance. And for most middle-class people who aspire to get, say, a second home in Florida, it would be impossible in most cases to pay cash and forego the insurance. So do we reduce the number of qualified buyers? And in the process, how does that affect real estate? Like this is going to be an interesting quagmire. Some of the most valuable real estate in North America is up and down the state, up and down the coast. And this is going to potentially affect property values. So most of all, let's stay informed so we can make sure our clients are informed and they can make good decisions. But keep your eye on the insurance thing, because I think that's going to be part of the process going forward. So that's the news this week. I gave it real quick, real fast, because I want to get to our guest. He is amazing, so I'm looking forward to that. Sean Carpenter is a friend of mine. He made a friend of me to me probably 25 years ago when he was the director of training for the NRT companies in Ohio, Cincinnati, and Columbus. He's been licensed since 1998. Sean is previously recognized as one of Inman's News top 100 influential people in real estate. He's been recognized 3 times by Swanpool's top 20 most influential people in social media, a social media voice in the world of real estate. He's a personal friend of mine. He is kind, generous, and I hold him in really, really high regard. A fellow realtor, a husband, a father, an avid golfer, a music lover, a beer drinking sports fan who's passionate about sharing with others. I love this guy. I really consider him a close friend. You are in for a treat today. Buckle up. Let's bring Sean on and let's get the program going.
Hey, Sean.
Greetings, Chris
Great
and Chris,
to see
two of my longtime friends. I was just thinking, it's been close to almost 22 years for each of us. Chris, you and I in integrity coaching, and
That's
Chris,
right.
as an eager young agent, sitting front row, making up songs at Leader's Edge, and having a blast. And so excited to be here with you guys and all the people watching from all around North America.
Fantastic.
We're happy to have you, Sean. Yes.
So, Sean, when you're not doing what you do, because you do great work for your clients and customers every day, you help share the dream of real estate to so many other fellow agents out there. When you're not doing all that, which I know is all the time, what do you do for fun? Like, what did Sean do this past weekend?
This weekend, I was visiting my son, who's a senior at Mississippi State University in Starkville, Mississippi. He's a professional golf management major, Chris and Chris. There's 18 schools in the country that offer the professional golf management major, which is an association with the PGA of America. So he will graduate after 4.5 years and it's a 4.5 year program, by the way. He'll graduate in December with a degree from Mississippi State in marketing and business. And then in January of next year, he'll get elected into the PGA of America, where he will continue on with his professional golfing career, hopefully as a teaching pro or a head pro at some point in his career. So very excited and proud of him.
That's amazing. That's great.
Yeah. And I wouldn't want to golf against him.
No, he put it this way: the day he beat me, he was, I think, a sophomore in high school, and people said, "Oh man, that must suck to have your kid beat you." And I said, "No, it was probably one of the proudest days of my life."
Yeah.
And literally 2 weeks later, my daughter beat me when she was a senior in high school, and couldn't be happier. So yeah,
There is that sense of incredible pride, right? I was telling you before the show, my daughter is in real estate with her husband. And, at 27 years old, she's a better agent than I ever was my entire career. So when you see your kids, follow the things that you love and you see them become even more successful, it is an incredibly proud moment, isn't it?
yeah, extremely. And my daughter's is steps away from getting her real estate license here in Ohio as well. So,
all right.
Yeah.
I love it.
There's one thing I want to add to it. There's one thing I want to say, Chris. It says a lot about the future of real estate when you as parents who are in real estate want your children to be part of the future of our business. And that says so much about who you are and what you believe in. So I applaud you guys. I think it's amazing that we are entrusting the future of our business in your kids' generation. So thank you for that.
Yeah, no problem. That's why I'm excited to share my content. I know you had a great guest a couple shows ago. Laura Levy shared her lessons from a pro. Chris, I thought I would share with you guys lessons from a 25-year rookie, and it's actually 27 if you count when I got licensed. But these are ideas and concepts and thoughts that I think will seem very basic on the surface level. But the reason I say lessons from a 25-year rookie is I was an agent for 4.5 years. Then I went into management, led a Coldwell Banker branch here in Columbus, Ohio. Loved the coaching and training part of the job, but hated the managing part of the job. Hated the P&L and running the security system and the fixing the copier and all those things. So I became the director of education. And when I left that role, left the paycheck, left the benefits, jumped back to being an independent contractor here in Central Ohio, and opened up my own company called Sean Speaks. I needed to go back and do all the things I did as an eager rookie, all the things I learned in Leaders Edge training and all the things I learned at Integrity Coaching and just the nuts and bolts. Because guys, listen, the basics work. We should never say get back to the basics. We should get better at the basics is what we should say. And that's what I'm going to share with you guys today, these lessons from a 25-year rookie. Guys, I'm on social media. I'm at Sean Carp on Twitter and Instagram. I'd love it if you guys would connect with me so I can connect with you and talk offline. But this is me now. Let's go back 27 years ago and look at my little rookie picture there on the screen. Dark hair, tie, eager beaver, ready to go out and set the world on fire. So I'm going to share with you things I've learned over my time that I think might echo with some of you guys. The newer people on the call, write these down as ideas to implement. The experienced agents on the call, maybe go back and remind yourselves that this stuff I'm talking about works. And you're going to say, yeah, you know what? I used to do these things in my career. And for some reason, I got away from it. And let me start with lesson number one is my philosophy. See, because we're in the real estate business, but we know that the house is just the widget that we happen to work with, right? It's not about the houses. It's about the people that live in the houses. It's about the families and the stories and the generations of change that we help people buy and sell houses, but they are the ones that make them a home. And so I watched early in my career, I watched the top agents in my company and in my industry, and I thought, what do they do to be successful? And that's when I came up with my philosophy a few years ago. And that philosophy is very simple. It's build relationships, it's solve problems, and it's have fun. Those three things. Think about those simple three things. I know everyone out there is looking for buyers. We're looking for sellers. We're looking for referral opportunities. But if you do those three things every day, build relationships, solve problems, and have fun, you're probably going to end up getting buyers and sellers and referrals, right? Think about this. Building relationships is the foundation of our business, right? It is a relationship business more than a house business, right? Remember, the house is just the widget. So how deep are your relationships? You should spend your day building relationships, either a relationship with someone you've never met before or deepening a relationship with someone that you've known for years. If you can help people solve problems, if you think about the real estate business, Chris and Chris, every real estate transaction on the residential side happens because a problem occurred. Now, it could be a good problem. You're getting married, you're having a baby, you got a new job. Could be a bad problem, death, divorce, downsizing, foreclosure. But nobody just wakes up one day and says, honey, what do you want to do today? I don't know. You want to put our house on the market? Nobody does that. Nobody says those things. And so solving problems is what we get paid to do. And if it's any problem, if you're good at solving problems, your customers and clients and community is going to say, I should call Sean because he's really good at solving problems. And having fun, guys, is just, let's admit it. That's why we do what we do, is so that we can have fun. So that philosophy, very simply, when I put my head on the pillow each night, I try and fall asleep and say to myself, did I build relationships today? Did I solve problems today? And did I have fun today? And guess what, guys? If I answer yes to that, there's a good chance I might have picked up a potential buyer, a potential lead on a seller, a potential referral opportunity, a speaking gig, or something good happened. And then I just keep doing it every day. Lather, rinse, repeat. So lesson one, pretty simple. Build relationships, solve problems, and have fun. Let's go to lesson number 2, though. Because Chris, I know you guys hear this all the time when I travel the country and speak to my audiences and talk to managers and even talk to agents and team leaders. They say, Sean, 27 years in the business, what's the secret? Is there some little thing, that magic pill, that silver bullet, that thing that everyone's looking for, like there's one thing? And we know there's no one thing. But the more I thought about it, I started thinking about that silver bullet. And, when you think about that silver bullet, what it is we get to choose our attitude every day, right? And the more I thought about the power of attitude in a career like sales, in a career like real estate, in a life in the world 2024 in North America, choosing your attitude, I think, is about as close to the silver bullet as I can get. And, if you think about the old-fashioned poker days, the silver bullet was the ace of spades, right? When the old cowboys in the Western movies would play poker, if you had the silver bullet in your hand, the ace of spades, that was kind of the highest card in the deck. So it broke all ties. And I started thinking, maybe that's the silver bullet, guys. Ace. Attitude controls everything. Wow. I think that is the silver bullet. Attitude controls everything. Because if you choose your attitude each day and make attitude control everything, look at that card on the screen. If I flip it over and look at it the other way, everything controls attitude. See, how much in our real estate business do we actually control? Think about this. We control our actions. We control maybe a little bit of our clients' actions, but we don't control the co-op agent. We don't control the other side of the transaction. We don't control the lender, the inspector, the underwriter, the appraiser. So if we're going to let everything control our attitude, good luck. But if we let our attitude control everything, we've got a much better chance of having success. One of my favorite books, and you can probably see it on my shoulder over here, on my books in the back. Well, you probably can't. Let me, just so you can see it there. Right there. That book is The Little Engine That Could. And it's not a business book, but I think it's probably the best business book we could read every day. And most people on this call have had that book read to them as a child by their parents or grandparents. You've probably read it to your kids or grandkids. And what's the whole message of the book, guys? It's, I think I can. I think I can. I think I can. And in this business, as it continues to evolve and shift and change, I think I can. I think I can is an attitude adjustment that we just need to remind ourselves daily of. We're recording this at the beginning of October, right? Excited to be here with you guys as we head into the fall here in the Midwest. And most places around the country are going to celebrate trick or treat coming up in a few weeks, right? The kids are going to dress up and put on costumes and of their heroes and of their, whether it's athletes or monsters or whatever it might be. And I want you guys to think back to when you were, that first time you were going to go trick or treating without your parents with you. Remember, that was probably like middle school. I remember you and your buddies were going to go out and you were so cocky. You didn't bring a pumpkin. You brought a pillowcase. Remember that? You brought a pillowcase. You were so content to get the entire neighborhood's worth of chocolate. You brought a pillowcase. And what did you do when you were a kid? You literally went from house to house to house to house to house. Now think back to when you went up to the front door and you could see the lights on inside. You could maybe even hear the TV on inside. You rang the doorbell. Nobody answered. What'd you do? Well, you just went to the next house. You didn't sit on the porch and pout. You didn't think, oh my gosh, I must be wearing the wrong costume. Oh my gosh, I probably rang the doorbell the wrong way. No, you never thought about that as a kid. You just went to the next house and the next house and the next house. But for some reason, guys, we become adults and we think when someone says no to us, they're saying no to us. They're saying no to us personally. Instead of no to the scenario, no to the situation, no to the timing, what we need to do is remind ourselves to be like kids and go to the next house and the next house and the next house, because that's where the candy is. Just remember that. Attitude controls everything. All right. I'm flying because I get so excited about this stuff, guys. And we'll stop and we'll pause and I'll take a drink of water and I'll bring Chris and Chris back on to chat about some of these ideas as they're thinking about how it might relate to their businesses that they built. But number 3 is it's a numbers game, right? When you really think about this, the business of our business, none of you guys out there that are watching this, unless you are the broker or the owner, none of you work for your broker or owner. You work with your broker and owner. You are the boss of your company. And so running like a business is critically important. And the best indication of future behavior, I think, is past behavior, right? The best way for us to learn about what to expect is where we've been. And so one of the things I learned early in my career was tracking your results. Now, this example on your screen is a very simple Excel spreadsheet. I am about as far from Excel in my brain as possible. I'm Microsoft PowerPoint, but I'm not really Excel. But this simple document, I've had my entire career, 27 years, and my next closing that I'll track from today's closing, I'll scroll to the very bottom and I'll plug in the name of my client. I'll plug in the subdivision if they're in one. I'll plug in the address. I'll plug in the date of the closing. I'll plug in the source of the business. If it's a listing, it's in yellow. So I'll plug in the days on the market and the listed sell price ratio. And when I hit enter, it's going to show me my career average sales price, my days on the market, my listed sell price ratio. And I know where all my business comes from. Now, this is a very simple form. You guys might have this in your brokerage tech stack. This might be in your MLS. But having a record of your business, if you're a newer agent on this call, maybe while you only have 8 or 10 deals under your wing, now's a good time to start this. But don't just track your results. What I want you to look at next is, where does your business come from? So I know how much my business comes in the first quarter. I know how much the business comes in the second quarter, how much comes in the third quarter. Because as I said, the best indication of future behavior is past behavior. So if I set a plan to do 100 transactions, well, I better have 18 after the first quarter, because based on my career, I do about 17% of my business in the first quarter. And I have some busy middle of the quarters. But if I was really coaching myself or getting help from my Leader's Edge coach, I would say, man, how do I get a better January? Because look at my numbers there in January, guys. It's kind of a crappy January, which meant I wasn't doing enough lead generation in the fourth quarter to put myself in position to close deals in January and February. And so it really is a good indication. But I want you to also look at where your business comes from. See, so I could track where my business has come from for my entire career, and the percentage that came from my sphere and floor duty and open houses. And once again, I can then really evaluate the effectiveness of my marketing methods. I can look at my budget, and I can start saying, like, if I want to allocate money to a certain aspect of my business, and you see they're broken down, the sphere is kind of a big pile, but directly from my sphere would be if Chris Leader called up and said, hey, Sean, I want to buy a condo, right? That's a direct sphere transaction. A referral from my sphere would be if someone like Chris said, hey, my friend Mallory wants to list her home. So that's a referral from my sphere. And I've got my past clients, which is my sphere, right? And I've got my in-house referrals, and those are other agents from around the country that might be sending my business. So really be honest with yourselves and look at where your business comes from. Now, let me go back 2 slides. I want to show this to you guys again, because I want to bring this up. You can probably see, and it's very small on my screen, but you see there where it says source of business, and I've got sphere, and I've got open house I, or I've got like phone duty I. That means phone duty immediate. Like they called me up on phone duty and I immediately put them in contract. The open house FU means open house follow-up. It doesn't mean open house FU. It means open house follow-up, right? Which meant I met them in an open house and I followed up with them. And so tracking where your business comes from is a really important aspect of our business to get to where we want to be. Because we got to look in the rearview mirror. We got to say, where has our business come from in the past so I can start doing more of the stuff that worked, or start doing less of the stuff that isn't working anymore because the market has changed and shifted. And we got to, as Wayne Gretzky says, skate to where the puck is going, not to where the puck has been, to get in the best position. Looking at the scoreboard each day. Like if you go to the ball games, if you're watching the Major League Baseball playoffs right now, you pay attention to the scoreboard. And in Major League Baseball, they're paying attention to runs, hits, and errors. Well, there's 3 things we should be looking at in our business. We should be looking at open listings or open units each month. What new things have gone into contract. We should be tracking listings. How many listings have we taken? We should be tracking closings. OLC. Instead of runs, hits, and errors, and instead of 9 innings, we're looking at a 12-inning game, so to speak, for each month. How many open units are we putting in each month? How many listings are we taking? And how many closings? Now, listings, if they're priced properly, should turn into an open unit, goes into contract. Open unit should turn into a closing. So it's a good indication to see what we have on the scoreboard to know where we're going next. All right, lesson 4. We're going to do 2 more, and then we're going to pause for a little break, bring the guys back on, and see what question you might have. But number 4 is the water well. You know, Chris, I know up in Canada you've seen these, and Chris, maybe when you grew up you probably saw these. But the old-fashioned water well, you know, if you pump an old-fashioned water well, let me just tell you, the water doesn't come out right away. So you better start pumping long before you're thirsty or need water if you're expecting to get water out. And boy, isn't that the same as our business, right? You can pump a water well for minutes sometimes, and you can hear the water gurgling. And I probably see people around the country nodding their heads who's ever pumped an old-fashioned water well. And you can hear it gurgling, and you can hear it gurgling. And finally, when the water starts coming out, people think, now I can stop pumping. But you can't, because then the water's going to all go back down to the well. You got to pump, and you got to pump, and you got to pump. And that's the same thing in our business, guys, is we got to wake up and we got to be pumping every single day. We got to act like a farmer and understand that just pumping the well doesn't do anything. Just making phone calls doesn't do anything. Just holding open houses doesn't do anything. Just sending flyers doesn't do anything. We got to be activity driven and focus on the two things an agent does with his or her day. And that's business development or business support. If I followed every agent in the country around and just took a legal pad and drew a line down the middle, and every activity is either a business development activity or business support activity, you know what most agents spend most of their time doing? Business support activities. And when I ask audiences why, they say because it's easier and it's safer. And look, it's got to get done. Don't get me wrong, guys. We've got to get deals from in contract to closing. That's got to get done. But in 27 years of the business, I've learned that the reason why most agents spend most of their time doing business support and not business development is because there's no rejection involved in business support activities. Right? Being on the MLS for hours on end is never going to say no. Making a flyer in Canva is never going to say, I'm not interested. Being on social media is never going to say, we're going to use our cousin. But I've learned, Chris has learned, if you spend all your time on business support, not business development, there soon is no business to support. And so we've got to find ways to put that done. And one of the ways we do that is we think like a farmer. You know, when I left the director of training role, guys, I made a decision on August 1st, 2016 to leave the paycheck, leave the benefits, retire from my role. And the next day I was back to being an independent contractor. And I thought, man, I got to put seeds in the ground if I'm going to feed my family. If I'm going to survive, I got to put seeds in the ground. I got to think like a farmer, because a farmer doesn't leave corporate America and become a farmer tomorrow and have a crop. They've got to work their field. They've got to pull the big rocks out. They've got to till the soil, and they got to put seeds in the ground, and they still don't have a crop. They got to put seeds in the ground. And so one of my ways I put seeds in the ground every day, look at all these different business development activities you could do. Those are just some of the things you could do to grow your business. And I'll leave this up on the screen for a second so people can take a screenshot of this, because all of these are ways you could grow business. Chris, you talk about these in a lot of your classes, all these different sources of getting your business. Do I do all of them? No. Am I really good at some of them? Yeah. And so really knowing where your business is going to come from is critical. And so when you talk about that water well and figuring out where your business is coming from, you got to focus on the activities, guys, not the results. Just keep doing the activities. Keep putting seeds in the ground. A farmer just keeps watering and fertilizing and pruning, and finally some seeds start coming through the ground, and he still doesn't have a crop. He or she has to water and fertilize and prune and water and fertilize and prune and be patient and keep doing the activities to get to where they want to be. Gonna do one more. We'll stop for a break. I'll catch a breath. Listen, guys, we got to focus on the right things. If we understand we got to pump the water well, and we got to have a good attitude, we got to look backwards to look forwards, focusing on the right things is critical. I want everybody who's watching in their watch parties or individual, look at that picture and tell me how many faces you see. Look at that picture and maybe type in the chat box how many faces you see. If you look closely, there's 7 faces. Now, a lot of people say 3 right away, and then look, there's 2 eyes, a nose, and mouth looking right at us. On that same face, there's a left eye, a nose, and mouth looking down to the bottom left. There's a right eye, a nose, and mouth looking down to the bottom right. There's the 2 skulls, which you probably saw, looking up to the corners. But inside the skulls, you see to the side of the pictures, there's little babies. Right? See the little babies there, and you can see the baby's face and his nose and his eyes and his arms and his legs. And when I say it to you, it's so obvious. But if I say to the audience, and I think I learned this simple approach from Chris Leader years ago, the goal of our business, what are you focused on? Well, most of us are focused on making money, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's how we keep score. That's just what we're aiming to do, is have a profitable business. Now, what we do with that money is completely up to us, but in order to make money, we got to have a closing, right? And you can't have a closing if you don't have a sale. That's how it works in most states I've been to around the country, is they don't get paid every other day or every other Friday like a regular job. They have to earn their money. But you can't have a sale unless you have a listing or a buyer to sell something to or for. And you can't get a listing or buyer unless you have an appointment. And you can't get an appointment unless you have the ability to talk to people. And so once again, when I point out the faces, you're like, oh, now I see all 7 faces. It's so obvious. But when I say to you, the right-hand side of the page, that's how real estate works, guys. And you say, oh, it's so obvious. So what's the most important thing we have to focus on? Well, most people would say talk to people. No, it's appointments. See, people on this webinar today, you already talked to people this morning. You talked to your barista at Starbucks. You talked to your kids' school bus drivers. They picked them up outside the pickup. You talked to someone at the gym. You talked to your neighbors. You were walking the dog. The difference is you didn't talk to them with a goal of setting an appointment. And so setting appointments is what I want you to think about. I'm going to tell a quick story before our break. This is the University of Notre Dame. I was there last week, but this picture and experience happened a few years ago. I'm a huge sports fan. So when I was at Notre Dame, I got a chance to tour Notre Dame Stadium, the famous Notre Dame Stadium where Newt Rockne and the legends of Notre Dame have played. And that day I was on tour, I was the only person that showed up for the tour, me and the tour guide. So I'm sure the tour guide was excited that he had to stay extra to work with one guy. And I asked hundreds of questions as we walked through the stadium. And we had such a good time. He said, Sean, I'm going to do something I never do for all my tours because it's normally a bunch of people. And he took me down on the 50-yard line and took my picture after the tour. And as we're walking out, he said, well, thanks for coming. I said, hey, is there any chance I can get in the locker room? He said, well, I can't take you in the locker room. That's for student athletes only. And I said, well, I don't really need to get in the locker room. I just want to see the sign. Can I get in to see the sign? He says, I can take you in to see the sign. See, the sign I'm talking about, guys, is this famous sign that says, play like a champion today. And the locker room at Notre Dame Stadium is on the second floor. And when the athletes come out of the locker room, they come down the steps and they all touch that sign. And then they turn down 7 more steps behind me there and run out on the field. And it's a sign that they all just basically say they're digging inside themselves to say, I got to play like a champion today. What I want to challenge the people on this webinar to do is when they're done with our session, I want them to grab a little yellow Post-it note. So a simple little yellow Post-it note. And you're going to put this Post-it note by the garage door opener in your house, right? Where you drive into your garage at the end of the day and you hit the button and the garage door goes down and closes the end of your day. On that little yellow Post-it note, here's what I want you to write. Did you schedule an appointment today? Did you schedule an appointment today? Because when you get home at the end of the day and you hit that garage door button, you're going to see that little sign and you're going to touch it and say, yes, I did. And if you didn't, then you're going to go inside and you're going to pour a glass of wine or crack open a beer and you're going to text a buddy or a friend and say, hey, you want to go work out in the morning? Hey, you want to go have breakfast tomorrow morning? Hey, you want to meet for coffee tomorrow morning? Because appointments, guys, is the way we get to the top. So let me stop there. Let's bring Chris and Chris back on. Maybe have them point out maybe something that they echoed with or picked up on in that session, or Chris, if there's any questions in the feed.
Spectacular job so far, Sean. It really kind of bubbles up my enthusiasm. I'll get going. That's the Agent Success app. It's Sean's Excel spreadsheet. We created that digital version of being able to track your business, forecast where you're going. And Sean, your yellow Post-it note, everybody who gets on our app, which is free, we send you a message every night at 8 o'clock that says, update your numbers, which is, did you book your appointment? So you and I are in the same theme. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, and I love the conversation, Sean, about, business development versus business support. That is so on point. How many of our agents spend too much time on support and not enough time on development? Chris, that was my takeaway on the first half. What about yours?
Sean, I love your perspective, right? It's really about being able to block and tackle, right? It's being able to, from my perspective, right, keep your head in the game. I think many people, and I'm seeing questions come in here, and it's certainly reinforcing this, but many people you just get sidetracked, right? You just get overwhelmed by the daily activities, and next thing you know, a week has gone by or 3 days have gone by, and you've actually forgotten the most important parts of the business. So you've got a really nice way of being able to focus on that. I love the idea, right? Like right there, right in front of you. You can't ignore it. You can't refuse to turn it on. It looks you in the eye, and it keeps each one of us focused on the things that certainly really matter. So thank you for that. I'm going to I'm just going to dive into a couple of these questions because I think they're really good. And everyone who's sending questions in, keep them coming. We love it. Sean, it says, hi, Sean, my name is Jessica. I'm new in the business. I really like your style. And thank you for sharing your ideas. I've been in the business for 3 weeks now. What are the 1 or 2 things that you would recommend that I do right now?
Take the online, offline. Jessica, I want you to scroll through your Instagram or your Facebook, and I want you to look for conversations that are potentially right there in front of you on your screen and take them offline. A phone call, a personal visit. If you see a client of yours shared their new puppy, instead of being the 55th person to comment, cute puppy, drop off a box of milk bones on their doorstep and say, here's something for Rufus. Look for opportunities to have a phone call or a text message outside of the social channels, because there's business right there in front of us. If we put our 3D glasses on, we can see the business right there in front of us. And so, Jessica, that'd be the first thing I'd say is take the online offline.
Love that. It's so actionable and so immediate. All right, Kim says, Sean, you sell real estate. How do you handle the initial conversations with your buyers given the new rules?
Simply just having a conversation. Let's talk about how soon you want to be there, right? How long you've been looking and what's going to happen next, right? If you found a place today, what are you going to do? I'm not here to try and sell you. I'm here to help you. And so let me just explain the scenario. You have an option now, Mr. and Ms. Client, right? The old golden rule of real estate. We control the process. They control the decision. We can do a 1 day so we get a chance to know each other. We can do a 1 week so we get a chance to know each other. Or you can understand that I'm a full-time real estate professional here to help you satisfy your concerns and needs, and not just be here until the commission check dries. We're hopefully creating a relationship that's going to extend well beyond the closing, so I can help you and your family and friends, for as long as I'm able to. So I try and make it a conversation, Chris. I don't make it a sign here so I can do my job. It's, let me explain how I do my job. Do you want me to be the person that guides you there?
Yeah, that's really nice. I think it also really exemplifies your personality, right? I think a lot of people get overly worried, right? They're saying to themselves in their mind, oh my gosh, new rule. Okay, just met a buyer at an open house, or I met a buyer at a party, or I got an inquiry on my listing, and all of a sudden you get tense, you get nervous because you think you need to do it differently. And yes, the process might be a bit different, but if you just start with your heart, you just start with a sincere conversation. Wow.
And it goes back, Chris, it goes back to the business development activities. If I'm doing enough business development activities and I've got 4 appointments scheduled this week and the first one doesn't want to work with me, then I got 3 more to come. A farmer who has acres and acres of corn doesn't worry about crows eating some of his ears of corn because he's got acres and acres of corn, right? And we need to think like that abundant farmer, that there are people out there that want and need our guidance, our services, right? We're not, for the most part, we're not buying or selling. We're not pulling a checkbook out. We're a guide in the journey to help people go from one part of their life to the next. And so I look at that as the opportunity. So how about I share a couple more ideas, and then we'll recap at the end. Other questions.
That'd be fantastic. All right, let's go.
All right, let me pull my little clicker up. All right, let's go to number 6. And number 6, got to refresh my little clicker here. There it goes. Is either you control your schedule or what? Or somebody else does, right? So one of the things we can do in real estate, the cool thing, guys, and we know this about real estate, the cool thing is it's different every day. The bad thing is, that's right, it's different every day. And so understanding that we got to control that schedule, there are 3 P's for what I call pain in your day, right? You want to have a bad day, be focused on these 3 P's: petulant, procrastination, and pessimism. Just be crabby, be in a bad mood the whole time. Procrastinate on all your decisions and assume none of them are going to work. Guys, I can guarantee that's going to be a bad day. But if you focus on these 4 P's for pleasure in your day, right? If you plan your day, you prioritize the things on your list, you perform the things on your list, then what the 4th P is you get to play. And that can be play golf, go for a bike ride, spend time with your spouse or partner, your kids, your parents, your grandkids. The planning of our day, whether it's on a legal pad or maybe in your app or whatever it might be, that's the easy part. All of us are good at writing down a list of things to do. It's the prioritizing that I think agents need to be better at. And the way I'm going to suggest you prioritize your list is, once you've made your 10 things to do today, or 5 things, or 31 things to do, is before you start acting on number 1, just look at numbers 1 and 2 on your list and say to yourself, which one of these gets me closer to a closing? And that should take priority. Numbers 2 and 3 on my list, which one gets me closer to a closing? It takes priority. Numbers 3 and 4 on my list. And you go all the way down your list. And listen, guys, if you get to the end of your list and nothing gets you closer to a closing, you have the wrong things on your list. You've got to put things on your list that are going to get you closer to a closing. But because we're all such task-focused people, we love to have check marks or cross-offs on our list. And so we sometimes cheat, and our to-do list looks like this: wake up, shower, get dressed, brush hair, drive to the office, so that we can check off 5 things on our list and feel like we've accomplished something. So when you plan your day, I said this early, and I don't like quoting myself, but it's such a simple quote. Live your life and let real estate happen in the cracks. When you're super active in your kids' schools, guess where you get business from? When you're super active in your church or house of worship or synagogue or temple, guess where you get business from? When you're super active in your local charities, guess where you get business from? And Chris and I have seen people all over our history of our business that try and live real estate and fit their life in the cracks. And they end up kind of failing at both because they're not doing the right things. And when you're actively engaged in your life, business will happen. And so it's a nice way to sort of focus on your schedule. Number 7 is I talked earlier about being a farmer, right? And what are those activities you can do? And I want to share a really simple idea that goes back to planting seeds. And this is something I've done since very early in my career, but I reinforced it when I went back into sales in 2016. And that's my 4-H club. Now, the 4-H club is a very simple daily activity. Chris talks about some of it in his national trainings. But the 4-H club was a simple way for me to sort of say, give me a plan, Sean, that even though real estate's different every day, that I can consistently do every day. And so here's my 4-H club. The first thing I do is I do 5 handwritten notes. I know it's super old school, but both Chris and Chris on this call have received handwritten notes from me. I do 5 handwritten notes every day that I'm not on the road. And those could be notes, blank notes I get from the dollar store. I order lots of my prints on Vistaprint. So I have some cards that have my philosophy on it. And so I do 5 handwritten notes. Everybody on this call knows that when you check your mailbox today, if there's 10 things in your mailbox and one's a handwritten note, you're going to open that one first. You're probably going to read it a second time, leave it on the counter so your spouse or partner can see it. Some of you guys have a junk drawer. I have a box full of handwritten notes over my shoulder that I every once in a while go back and look at. Then I'll run my hot sheet. I don't run the hot sheet for all of Central Ohio. There's 1.8 million people here in the greater Columbus area. I run the hot sheet for Upper Arlington, the little town where I live. And I run it the first time as a realtor to see what new coming soons, what in contracts, what price changes, what closings, what expireds have happened. And I look through the second time to see do I know anyone that lives around that property? And if I do, I'm going to send a quick text to Chris and say, hey, Chris, there's no listing in your neighborhood. Want to watch the game this weekend? Hey, Chris, that house I told you about 2 weeks ago went into contract. Not sure what it's going to sell for, but I'll let you know when it does. Will I see you at the club? I'm not trying to sell that, guys. I'm just trying to make sure that when they think about real estate in their local community, they should think of me. Then I do my happy birthdays. I jump onto Facebook for the first time each day and see who's having a birthday that day and send them a message. Or if they're close friends, they're going to get a video text message from me. And then my high fives, which Chris talks about all the time, my high fives is because I'm already on Facebook. I'm going to scroll through Facebook. I'm going to do my 5 likes on Facebook. I'll do 5 comments on Facebook. I'll jump over to Twitter, my favorite channel. I'll do 5 comments or retweets on Twitter. I'll do 5 comments on Instagram, and I'll send 5 people a text message. 5 people in my phone, a text message. Something as simple as have an awesome day. Maybe a congrats on the team's win last night. Good luck to your kid in the soccer tournament this weekend. It could be a funny GIF or a meme. And once I've done that, guys, once I put my seeds in the ground, I go get my morning coffee. I go get my morning coffee as a reward for putting seeds in the ground. Now, let me go back a slide. 5 handwritten notes. Let's say 2 hot sheets today. Let's say 13 birthdays on Facebook today and my 25 touches because it's 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. That would be 45 people that are hearing from Sean Carpenter. 45 people. If I do that 5 days a week, that's 235 people that are hearing Sean Carpenter's name across their top of mind, across their ears, across their eyes, or across their screen or in their mailbox. Is it possible that some of that turns into business next week, next month, next year? Just like a farmer, I just keep putting seeds in the ground. I just try and get my name to pop up over and over and over again. It's such a simple little strategy that you could steal. And look, maybe you do 1 handwritten note a day. Maybe you only have a couple friends on Facebook that have birthdays. Maybe you do a high five and you do 1 of each of those things. But that's on purpose, putting more seeds in the ground. Number 8, got to figure out who your client is, guys. Got to figure out who your client is. The cool thing about being an independent contractor is you kind of get to define who your client is. Who's your ideal client? When you think about your ideal client, there's lots of different ways you could find your ideal client. Maybe it's someone that does multiple transactions. Maybe you like working with investors that are buying 3 or 5 or 10 at a time. Maybe it's a referred business. A lot of us like to work by referral only. Maybe it's a family member, or sometimes maybe it's not a family member, right? Maybe it's a growing family. We want to help people who are having their first child, getting married. I mean, one of the cool things about our business is when we have a family who's been with us since their bachelor house, then they sold it and got married. Then they had their first baby and bought a bigger house. And they sold that when they had their second baby. And then they sold that when the kids went off to college and downsized. And maybe it's zip codes. Maybe you're at a point in your career where you only want to work a certain zip code. Maybe it's occupation. You want to specialize and work with nurses or doctors or golf pros or horse trainers. But whatever it is, here's what I want you guys to think today. The exercise is, does your ideal client know that they're your ideal client? Because I bet Chris and Chris can think of some of their favorite clients they've ever had in their careers, that if every client was like that person, their business would just be amazing. And here's what I learned in my 27 years in the business. You know who your ideal client hangs out with? Other people like them. Other people like them. So your ideal client is around other good people. So I want to put something on the screen, guys. I want to challenge everybody who's watching this, pull your phones out, and I want you to take a picture of this slide right here. Whoever you're thinking of right now, dear Chris, I was in a real estate workshop today and the instructor was talking about identifying our ideal client. As he was talking, I quickly thought of you and the great time we had working together. Love to hear what you've been up to lately. Let's get together soon to catch up. What a simple message to send to your ideal client. You're going to feel good writing it. They're going to feel great getting it. And it's just what a neat little way to make sure your people recognize that that's who you should be looking for, is that ideal client, and then find ways to serve them more and more and more. And then what we have to do is treat everyone like your favorite client. Right? This is Zebulon, North Carolina. Zebulon's a small little town. I bet Chris Leader's never been there. Chris McGatt might have flown over it one time, but I was speaking in Virginia one time and I had to speak in North Carolina 2 days later. So I had kind of the whole day of travel in between, which, as Chris Leader knows, sometimes it's just a nice welcome respite to have 1 day of not having to be somewhere. So I was in no hurry. I slept into the hotel in Virginia, started driving. And as I was driving, I thought to myself, I could kind of use a haircut. Like now, my hair's getting a little shaggy. And I promised myself the first barber shop I see, I'm going to stop and get a haircut. So as I get off the freeway in the middle of North Carolina to start cutting down towards Raleigh, I went through a little town called Zebulon. And I got to the first traffic light, looked to my left, looked to my right, no barbershop. Got to the second traffic light, looked to my left, looked to my right, no barbershop. Got to the third traffic light, the last traffic light, by the way, and there was a barbershop. So I pulled into the gravel lot near the train tracks, and I walked to the front door of Harris's Barber and Style Shop. I made myself a commitment. I was going to stop at the first barbershop I saw and get my haircut. And as I opened the door, the little bells on the back of the door went jingling-a-ling, and 6 sets of eyes looked at me from the waiting room. I looked around the corner at the barber who had a customer in his chair, and they looked right at me. Guys, I'd walked into an all-black barbershop in Zebulon, North Carolina. And I said, do you guys take walk-ins? He said, of course we do. Come on in. Guys, it was such good service. I wrote a blog post about it. And in that blog post, I wrote in there, I said his name was Charles, and he was filled with energy and enthusiasm. He guessed that I wasn't from there. Let's just say, in addition to my unkempt, long gray hair, I didn't look like a resident in the area. But here's the thing. Look at the very bottom. It says, I paid him and I asked him to take a picture. He said, what for? I said, so I can show my friends I got my hair cut by the best barber in Zebulon. See, Charles that day treated me like I was his best customer. He treated me like I had been there my entire career. When I first walked in, I said, what about these guys? Are they waiting in line? He said, no, they're just here shooting the shit. They're just talking. And they all started talking to me. And we all just became friends in that hour I was there. And guys, what if every one of your clients felt the way I did when Charles welcomed me into his store in Zebulon, North Carolina, and made me feel like I was his best client? See, that's the type of level of service we're trying to get. Number 9, the more things change. Look, the more things change, we start realizing that we got to always be focused on what's coming next, right? I know that your program, Chris does that. Keeping agents looking forward, right? Not worrying about yesterday's market or the market that we used to have. It's about focusing on the next opportunity and what is coming as far as opportunities. What about the next innovation or disruption that's coming, right? AI and virtual reality and apps and programs and brokerage models. Guys, there's still going to be people buying. There's still going to be people selling. There's still going to be referral opportunities out there. What about the next generation? How are we getting ahead of that next generation? How are we being the name people think of when they think of professional quality service that gets results? And how are we talking to them, whether it's on social media or face-to-face or in the right opportunities? The evolution of our business is always changing, right? MLS books. Those of us are laughing remembering MLS books, right? Came out every 2 weeks. You had a 1-inch by 1-inch picture. You had 40 characters to talk about your property. Lock boxes on doors, right? We used to have to go to offices and get keys, right? Now we have websites and we have virtual showings, and it's just changing. Our business is changing. The tools are changing, and we can't be afraid of those tools changing. Understand there are tools out there that might not be for us, and we don't have to get a tool just because it's a new tool we heard someone's using. So be smart with that. Our workspace is changing, right? The way our offices are set up. We have virtual brokerages now. We have offices where people don't even go in the brick and mortar. Think about going to the old-fashioned hardware store that we all remember. And now you walk into these cavernous warehouses with people. So the workspace is changing. And I'll tell you what, I kind of sometimes like to just work, in my office. But there's other days I just like to go work in a coffee shop and be in the vibe of the people and get a feeling for that. And so be always thinking about what's coming next. And finally, guys, I know we're racing through these, but I get so excited to share these, once again, simple ideas. But let's finish with this one. Then we'll bring Chris back on and see what questions we have. But number 10 is leave an impression. Right? At the end of the day, what we get to do is not transact a business. We count transactions, right? Your brokerages, your companies, your local boards of realtors and state associations, they count transactions. How many deals have been done? But never thinks of it as a transaction, the consumer. They think of it as a transition from this part of their life to this part of their life. And the fact that we get to be the guide in that journey, if we can leave an impression on people, if we can understand that good service isn't enough anymore. Good service, great service is expected. What we need to aim for is a memorable experience, right? Maya Angelou's, one of my favorite quotes, people forget what you said, people forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And when you get a chance to make someone feel good about who they are and what they do, it's pretty powerful. This is a sign that hangs in my office in my real estate office. It says, doing what's required only prevents customer dissatisfaction. You must do more than is required to truly satisfy a customer. Just remember that, ladies and gentlemen, when you work with a seller and say, list with me, Chris, I'm going to get your house sold. Well, at the closing table, when you got their house sold and they don't have a parade for you, well, you did what you told them you were going to do. Why would they have a parade for you? You did your job. You've got to find ways to do more. One of the ways I found through my career that you can make people remember you and stand out is when you use people's names, right? The name is the most important word in our own personal, vocabulary. When you hear your name, if Chris is walking through Atlanta airport this afternoon, the busiest airport in the world, and someone says, hey, Chris, both of them are going to turn for a second and say, I know they're not talking to me, but they might be. I was in Houston Hobby Airport last year. I was coming back from a football game with my buddies. I had a couple hour layover before my flight home. So I stopped at Papa's to grab a burger and a beer. As I sat at the bar, Angel on the left said, my name's Angel. This is Maria. We'll be your servers today. What can I get for you? I said, I'll have an IPA on tap and I'd like to see your menu for a burger. He said, great. He hands me my beer and he says, once again, my name's Angel. This is Maria. What's your name? I said, my name is Sean. And every time he approached me or Maria approached me, they used my name. Then I started realizing they were using everyone's name at the bar. He'd asked me what time my flight was so I wouldn't miss it. I knew where everyone was flying. I knew why they were flying. And I kept thinking, wow, these guys are good. I'm good with names, but how are these guys figuring it out? And then I realized he had written my name on a sheet of paper and put it underneath me on the bar. Right? What a simple little hack. But then I realized it wasn't the act of writing my name. It was remembering my name and using my name. And I knew all the people's names around me. In fact, it was such a great experience. I wrote a blog about it, about say my name, about how feeling seen and heard and made that impression it left on me was so impactful. It was just a thrilling thing for me to say. This is a favorite text I've ever received from my daughter. My daughter Riley is now a 25-year-old, getting ready to be a real estate agent, but this was her sophomore year at University of South Carolina. She texted me one late afternoon that says, the barista at Starbucks knows me by name. Oh my God, I've made it. She was so excited the barista used her name. And I responded back to her and I said, what's his or her name? And most importantly, you using it just might make their day too. Hashtag baristas names matter. And here's what made me so proud as a dad. There was no 3 dots at the bottom of my phone. There was just a quick response, Mackenzie. My little girl knew her barista's name. And I just think that's such a cool thing that people realize that you're paying attention to them. You're not just using them for a transaction. You're remembering their names, their kids' names, their dogs' names, where they went to college, where they work. You're making people say like, wow, you really remember me. And it's just that you make them feel appreciated and heard. That's my blog, guys. I blog every Sunday night. It'll come in your inbox on Monday mornings. I call it my Monday morning match. It's designed to be a spark, a little kick in the pants, a little idea. Sometimes it's about real estate. Sometimes it's about life. The post I put out today was, I think, my 1283rd blog post I've written. I haven't missed a Monday in, I think, 9 years. I don't overload your inbox with a bunch of spammy stuff. I'm not selling anything. It's just for agents, brokerages, leaders, just to maybe get a little idea, a little story, and lots of things in there. I would love it if you would, follow me. But some final thoughts before we bring up, look, guys, don't be afraid of the new market. It's a new market every day. Every day it's a new market. And you get a chance to be a leader in it. What a great opportunity to insert 2.0 in your business. Pump the well every day. Pump the well. Put change in your jar, it starts adding up. Walk a couple steps on the treadmill, it starts adding up. Build relationships, solve problems, have fun. You do those things, guys, guess what? Your business ends up being pretty good. And so I love sharing with you guys. And let's bring Chris and Chris back on, see if there's any other thoughts on that last section or anything in your chat that I can share.
Bravo. Well done, man. Well done. I am feeling energized. So good for you.
Yeah, what a great session. Sean, where did you find that MLS book? Oh my God, you must have gone to the Smithsonian.
Right?
That brought back so many memories.
I don't think people understand that only came out usually every other week. And I was in a class last week in Memphis, and I said it was about the size of a phone book. And then I saw a couple of faces, and I said, "You young people don't know what a phone book is." Oh my gosh, you don't even know what a phone book is. But remember, you were doing like backdoor drug deals, like in the parking lot, saying, "Take this home, Chris," and you and Marcy look at it, but don't write in it, don't dog ear any pages. I could get in trouble for giving this to you, right? And,
I remember that so well. Thank you for that little moment of time.
Yeah.
It's really fun, right? Because our industry is constantly changing. And I think, quite frankly, we're in the business of change, right? So it's our job as practitioners, participants in the industry, to always be looking at that change. And I know time is running short, but I've got a lot of questions here. But one of them had to do with, from Kelly. Thank you, Kelly, for sending a question. She says, what are your thoughts on AI and the best way to integrate it? And what are you doing about that?
I use it to help me sometimes think of my thoughts. I try and be original, and then I run it through to see if there's spelling errors or typos. I sometimes will just type in, I'm a real estate agent in Columbus, Ohio. What are 5 ideas for a social media post to create engagement? Right. And then I come up with the creativity. I come up with the creative part. I just get the kind of the push to start using it. So using it to supplement your business, not replace your business, I think is critical. Listen, AI is really nothing more than just listed cards. That was more analog. This is more digital. So finding ways to have it implement or supplement what you're doing, boost what you're doing, not replace what you're doing.
Very, very insightful. I have to share this. Kathy Reardon, thank you so much. Kathy's one of my favorites. She's out of Arizona, has an awesome office, and she's always thinking about things. And it's funny, Kathy, you sent me this little GIF here, and I have to say, Sean, when you said the yellow sticky note, what I wrote on that for me was, right, that saying, right, play like a champion today. I'm going to put that on my monitor, and it's just having that awareness every day of just be your best version of yourself every day.
Get in the game
for the people that you connect with, right? Okay, I'm going to see if I can.
I don't care if you're the number one agent in your company or in your office. Here's what I care about. When you go home tonight, you're the number one agent in your house, right? That you're the best agent you can be that night. Now, if you're married to another realtor, let them be number one. You be number 1A. But we all worry about so much being number one. Just be the best agent you can be. Right? Play like a champion.
Yeah. Love that. Love it. Cassandra, thank you for your comment. She just said, your story about Charles warmed my heart. Thank you. Another comment about the barista and just really putting context and practicality into what you're talking about. Love that. Follow the plan, not your mood, Chris. Great comment. Okay, listen, we're there. I can't believe it, but we're there. We got to do this again sometime. Hey, Chris, very quickly. Well, first of all, Sean, thank you. Listen,
thank you guys.
You leave a really nice impression. You talk about the importance of leaving an impression. I want you to know today you've left an impression on so many people about the way you do your business and your perspective. So thank you for that. Chris, if you can give us a quick poll, let's do a quick pitch for coaching, and then we got to close this down. I can't believe it.
Yeah, if we could get everybody to give us a rating today on what you thought. It's important. We want to deliver in the future. And when we get our feedback from you, it really helps. So if you could go in today and give us a rating on Sean, but I know I'm going to project it's going to be 6 stars out of 5 because he is just the best.
I'm seeing it.
He
It's
is
looking
just
really
the best. So it's been a wonderful day today. And then the next thing up, Chris, was there we are, the QR code. Take a minute, hit that QR code. We have an amazing team of coaches. Their commitment to excellence. We're specific on how we choose our coaches for you. Here's a couple of things I say to people when you're going to hire a coach. Ask them this question: how long have you been in real estate, and what qualifies you to give me advice? Before you write the check, before you take out the credit card, and I promise you, if you choose one of our coaches, they will exceed your expectations in every category. All of them have at least 15 years in the business. Most are retired managers, regional vice presidents, and presidents. These are a very overqualified group of people. So you should take advantage of their guidance and finish strong and get started next year off to a good start. So find out about our coaches and some of our other programs.
Fantastic, Chris. Thank you very much. Listen, if we missed your question, which I know we did, thank you, Sandy. 10 stars. I agree with you. If we did, I'm sorry. That's my fault. Just simply send an email to askchris@leccoach.com. Chris Leader himself will get back to you with great information and promptly. And then also we record the session for those that couldn't join us, but even for those of us that need one more dose of Sean, you've got 1 week to review that recording before it vaporizes into the universe. It's a wrap for today's session. First of all, a huge thank you again to Sean for making the difference, for making the impression that you talk about. You certainly did today. And a big thank you to every one of you that took some time out of your busy Monday to ensure that, listen, if we all stay focused, we all stay organized, we all stay committed to our business, and we approach it like a business, like Sean says, that's the only way that our best years are, in fact, our next years. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you all next Monday.